Sometimes life has a way of showing you exactly what you need to see, even if it shatters you. I never expected that night to change everything. My name's James Parker. I'm 36, an average guy from Ohio. Nothing too flashy, nothing too extraordinary. I've always believed that my life was simple, steady, and predictable. Married to Lauren for 7 years, I thought we were the kind of couple people admired, happy, solid, and comfortable. But that illusion crumbled the night I walked into a surprise party. It started innocently enough. Late Friday evening, I was sitting on the couch half watching TV when a text popped up on my phone. It was from Mark, one of my close friends. "Hey man, don't forget, tomorrow Lauren's got a surprise planned, big party. Be there at 8. Don't be late." I stared at the message, confused. A surprise party for me. Lauren hadn't mentioned anything, and it wasn't my birthday or any anniversary that I could think of. I even checked the date on my phone, just to be sure. Still, the thought of her organizing something special warmed me a little. Maybe this was her way of making up for how distant she'd been lately. You see, the last few months had felt off. Lauren had started working late more often. Her phone buzzed constantly, and she became a master at hiding the screen. When I asked about it, she brushed me off with a laugh and an eye roll. "You're paranoid, James. It's just work stuff." And then there was the ring, or rather, the absence of it. About a month ago, I noticed Lauren had stopped wearing her wedding ring. At first, she gave me some excuse about it needing repair, but weeks passed and the ring never returned. I didn't push her on it. I trusted her. I told myself it was nothing. But deep down, a quiet unease began to settle in my chest. The next night as I drove to the party, the unease grew stronger. The streets were empty and my headlights cut through the darkness, the only sound the hum of my car. I pulled up outside the address. Mark had sent some upscale house. I didn't recognize the driveway was packed with cars, music faintly thumping behind closed doors. I sat there for a moment, staring at the house, a strange heaviness in my chest. Something didn't feel right. Still, I shook it off. It's just a party, I told myself. Lauren went through the trouble of planning this. The least I could do was show up and act. Surprised, I grabbed the gift bag. I threw together an old joke between us. I never show up empty-handed, and walked toward the door. When I stepped inside, the music hit me, like a wall. Some pop song blaring over a room full of voices, laughter, and clinking glasses. The lights were dim, but I could see people milling about. Friends, familiar faces. A cheer erupted when they noticed me, and someone shouted, "There, he is the man of the hour!" Confused, I forced a smile and waved, searching the crowd for Lauren. That's when I saw her. Lauren. She was standing across the room, frozen mid-lift, her eyes locking onto mine. The moment I walked in, her smile vanished. The color drained from her face as though she'd seen a ghost. And that's when I noticed the man standing next to her. His hand was on her waist, his mouth close to her ear, like he'd just been whispering something. He turned, following her gaze to me, and the expression on his face went from relax to panic. In an instant, the room seemed to freeze people. Music, laughter, it all faded into the background. Noise. I didn't move, I didn't blink. I just stood there staring at my wife, and the stranger, whose hand was still resting on her, was. The silence that followed was deafening. Lauren opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, I said the words that stopped everyone cold. "Well, this is quite the surprise, isn't it?" The moment those words left my mouth, you could have heard a pin drop. The music, the chatter, the laughter, all of it screeched to a halt. Dozens of eyes turned toward me, their expressions, a mix of confusion, curiosity, and discomfort. The man's hand slipped off Lauren's waist like it was suddenly burning him. Lauren took a step forward, her face pale, her smile frozen and trembling. James, what are you doing here? Her voice cracked slightly, and that question alone told me everything I needed to know. What am I doing here? At a party planned in my honor. It didn't make sense, and the absurdity of it struck me like a punch to the gut. I let out a short, humorless laugh, shaking my head. What am I doing here, Lauren? That's a great question. I thought I was walking into a surprise party for me. I scanned the room, looking at the familiar faces of our friends, my friends, some avoiding my gaze, others watching like they tuned into a live episode of their favorite reality show. But it seems I continued, my voice steady. The surprise is on me. Lauren's mouth opened and closed as if she couldn't find the words. Her cheeks flushed, whether from shame, guilt, or anger. I couldn't tell the man next to her, a guy I now recognized as Eric Jennings, an old coworker of hers, shifted awkwardly on his feet, his eyes darting to the exit. Eric, the guy who used to call me Buddy at office parties. Oh, the irony. I can explain, Lauren stammered. Taking another step closer, I held up a hand, stopping her cold. Explain. Really, in front of everyone here. I gestured to the silent crowd of partygoers. By all means, Lauren, explain to me and all our friends why you're here with him. A ripple of whispers spread through the room. I could feel the weight of every pair of eyes on us, the collective discomfort as my words echoed in the air. But I didn't care. I wasn't about to let her weasel her way out of this, not after the months of lies, late nights, and missing rings. Eric finally spoke up, his voice, thin and defensive. James, man, it's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like. Classic. The oldest line in the book, isn't it? I shot back. My voice sharp because from where I'm standing it looks pretty damn clear. Lauren's expression shifted. The shock and panic in her eyes hardened into something else. Defiance. You're making a scene, she hissed under her breath. Can we go somewhere private to talk? I met her glare with one of my own private. Oh no, Lauren. You don't get to hide this behind closed doors. Not this time. I turned my gaze back to Eric, who looked like he was wishing for the ground to swallow him whole. And you? I said, my voice dangerously calm. You're the guy who shook my hand at our barbecue last summer. Told me I was lucky to have such an amazing wife. I'm curious. How long were you sleeping with her? Before or after that? Eric paled. A woman in the corner gasped audibly. James stopped. Lauren shouted now, her voice breaking. No, Lauren. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears, but I didn't raise my voice. I refused to be the one losing control here. I want to hear it go on. How long? Eric didn't answer. He looked at Lauren for some kind of rescue, but she had nothing to give him. Her arms crossed tightly over her chest, and for a second I could see the cold calculation behind her eyes. She was searching for a way out, a way to turn this around. You're acting crazy, she snapped, her voice trembling with anger. Now you're embarrassing yourself. That was her play. Make me look like the irrational one, embarrassing myself. I repeated, tilting my head. Lauren, I walked into this. You set the stage. I'm just playing my part. The crowd shifted uneasily, and a few people started to move toward the door, clearly eager to escape the growing tension. I spotted Mark, my supposed friend, standing off to the side watching everything unfold. He had known about this party, about her, and he hadn't said a word. I felt the weight of betrayal on every level. I hope it was worth it, Lauren, I said finally, my voice quiet but cutting. I really do. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, an apology maybe, or another excuse, but I didn't give her the chance. Without another word, I turned and walked toward the door. My steps echoed through the silence. As I reached the exit, I paused my hand on the knob and glanced back one last time. Lauren was still standing there, her shoulders tense. Eric hovering nearby like a man who just realized he was in over his head. To the crowd, I said, "Enjoy the party, everyone. It's one for the books." And with that, I walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. The cold air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside. It felt sharp, grounding, like it was trying to pull me back to reality, to steady the whirlwind of emotion spinning inside me. My breath formed clouds as I walked down the street aimlessly at first, letting my feet carry me far away from that house, from her, from him. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I knew who it was. Lauren, probably sending frantic texts to smooth things over. Or maybe it was one of our friends trying to play mediator. None of them mattered. Right now, I needed space to think, to process what had just happened. How had it come to this? The signs were there. I saw them, but I had convinced myself that I was being paranoid, that Lauren could never betray me like this. Yet here we were, the missing wedding ring. That was the first crack in the facade. "It's just uncomfortable, James," she had said, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I take it off when I'm doing yoga, and I keep forgetting to put it back on." I had believed her because I wanted to believe her. Lauren had always been good with words, with explanations that sounded just reasonable enough to quiet my doubts. Then there were the late nights, the text messages she dismissively brushed off the way she started pulling away. Not enough to be obvious, just enough for me to feel it deep in my gut. The gut never lies. I stopped walking and found myself staring up at a flickering street lamp. The hum of the city surrounded me. Cars rushing by, distant laughter from a nearby bar. But I felt like I was underwater, disconnected from it. All my mind replayed the moment I walked into that party on an endless loop. The music, the lights, the way Lauren froze when she saw me, as if I had shattered the illusion she was so carefully crafting. And Eric Jennings, that smug son of a butt. Clenched my fists at the thought of him, at the memory of his weak attempts to defend himself. It's not what it looks like. Yeah, right. Couldn't go home. Not yet. The house I had shared with Lauren would feel empty, now hollow and cold. So I kept walking, winding through the city streets until I ended up in front of a small, dimly lit DIER. The neon sign buzzed faintly above the door, casting a soft red glow across the sidewalk. I pushed inside, the bell above the door jingling as I entered. The smell of coffee and grease filled the air, comforting in its familiarity. "Sit anywhere," the waitress called from behind the counter, not even looking up from the pot of coffee she was refilling. I slid into a booth in the far corner, away from the windows. My hands shook slightly as I picked up the menu, even though I wasn't hungry. A distraction, that's what I needed. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the image of Lauren with her arms wrapped around him. "Can I get you something, Han?" The waitress was standing next to me now, a notepad in one hand and a pencil poised in the other. She was older, with kind eyes and a face that had probably seen its fair share of stories. "Just coffee," I muttered, forcing a small smile. "Black, you got it," she said softly. As if she could sense the storm I was carrying inside me, I leaned back in the booth, staring blankly at the empty table in front of me. My phone buzzed again, vibrating against my thigh. Sighing, I pulled it out and glanced at the screen. "Lauren, James, please answer me. I can explain. Lauren. It's not what you think. Lauren, come home. Let's talk." I dropped the phone onto the table, my jaw tightening. Not what you think. If I heard that phrase one more time, I was going to lose it. The waitress returned with my coffee, setting the mug down gently in front of me. "Rough night?" she asked, not unkindly. You could say that, I replied, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. She nodded knowingly. Heartbreak has a way of making the world feel smaller, doesn't it? I blinked, surprised by her words. I hadn't said anything about Lauren or the party. Maybe it was written all over my face, or maybe she'd seen enough people walk through that door with the same haunted look in their eyes. Yeah, I said after a moment. It does. She patted my shoulder gently before walking back to the counter, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the bitter taste of the coffee. Lauren's texts kept coming one after the other. I could see the notifications lighting up my screen, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. Not yet. Yet. Not until I decided what to do next, because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I sat in that booth for what felt like hours, the coffee growing cold in front of me as the world outside continued on without me. Every now and then I'd catch myself staring blankly at my phone, Lauren's messages piling up like bricks in a wall. I wasn't ready to face that. Finally, I swiped the screen and unlocked it, skimming through the string of desperate texts. Lauren, I didn't mean for you to find out like that, Lauren. Please, James, you don't know the whole story. Lauren, come home. I can explain everything. I scoffed under my breath. Explain what? There was no explanation that could erase what I'd seen with my own eyes. Lauren, the woman I had trusted, the woman I had built a life with, standing in that house, with Eric Jennings, of all people. I shoved the phone into my pocket and leaned back against the booth, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts were a storm. Anger, betrayal, confusion, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't quiet them. Why Eric? Why him? Eric Jennings had been my friend, or at least I thought he was. We worked together for years, grabbed beers after late shifts, joked about office politics. I even introduced him to Lauren when we first started dating. If there was anyone I would have trusted around her, it was him. But apparently I'd been blind. The door to the diner opened and a gust of cold air swept through. I looked up out of habit and froze, standing there disheveled and wide-eyed. Was Eric? For a moment I wondered if I was imagining it, but no. There he was, scanning the diner like he was looking for someone. Me, the second his gaze locked onto mine. He hesitated for a split second. I saw guilt written all over his face, plain as day. Then he squared his shoulders and started walking toward my booth. I sat up straighter, my fists clenching under the table. Every nerve in my body told me to get up, to throw a punch, to demand answers. But I stayed where I was, my heart pounding as Eric slid into the booth across from me. James, he said quietly, his voice cautious. Can we talk? I stared at him, my expression cold. You've got some nerve showing up here. He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. I know I screwed up. But there's more to this than you think. I cut him off, my voice sharp. Don't give me that. I saw you, Eric. I don't need to hear your excuses. High heavily, finally meeting my gaze. I didn't come here to give you excuses. I came here because I owe you the truth. I narrowed my eyes, my jaw tight. The truth? You mean the truth that you've been sneaking around behind my back with my wife? Eric flinched like I just hit him. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Eric? I demanded, my voice rising. You've got 5 minutes. Go ahead. Explain to me why the hell you were with her tonight. He hesitated, glancing around the diner like he was afraid someone might overhear. Finally, he leaned in closer, lowering his voice. I didn't plan for any of this to happen, he said. Lauren, she came to me. She was lost. James, she's been struggling for a while now, and she didn't know how to tell you. Struggling with what? I shot back, my tone laced with disbelief. Eric sighed again, shaking his head with, You, man. She said you've been distant, that you don't talk to her anymore. Don't look at her the same way. She felt like you didn't care. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Was it true? Had I really been that blind to Lauren's feelings? I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. That doesn't excuse what you two did. I'm not saying it does, Eric said quickly. I'm trying to explain why it happened. She needed someone to talk to, and I slammed my hand on the table, making the coffee cup rattle. You were supposed to be my friend, Eric. His face fell, guilt and shame written all over him. I know, he said quietly, and I'm sorry. I wish I could take it back. I stared at him for a long moment, anger bubbling up inside me like lava. Finally, I pushed back from the table and stood up, glaring down at him. Save your apologies, I said coldly. You're dead to me, Eric. Both of you are. He didn't say a word. As I turned and walked out of the diner, the bell above the door ringing sharply behind me outside. The cold air felt harsher, now biting at my skin. As I started walking again, my mind raced with Eric's words, twisting and turning until I couldn't tell what was real anymore. Had I been distant? Had I pushed Lauren away without realizing it? Or was this just another lie, another excuse to cover up the truth? I didn't know anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't go home. Not yet the freezing wind hit me. As I walked aimlessly down the dark streets of the city, my mind replayed Eric's words like a broken record. She felt like you, didn't care. You've been distant. I didn't want to believe him. I couldn't believe him. But a seed of doubt had been planted. Had Lauren really felt like I was pulling away? Sure, work had kept me busy, and there were times I came home exhausted, barely able to hold a conversation. But I thought that was normal. It wasn't like I'd stopped loving her. My phone buzzed in my pocket again. I ignored it. I knew it was Lauren. I couldn't bear to read her lies, or worse, hear her voice. I ended up in front of a small bar, the neon sign glowing faintly in the misty air. I didn't think twice before stepping inside. The place was quiet, save for the soft murmur of voices and the clinking of glasses. It was exactly what I needed, and escape from my spiraling thoughts. I grabbed a seat at the bar and ordered a whiskey. The bartender, a middle-aged man with a tired smile, slid the glass toward me. Rough night, you could say that. I took a sip, feeling the burn spread through my chest. The stool next to me squeaked as someone sat down. I didn't look until I heard a familiar voice. Well, you look like hell. I turned sharply and found myself face to face with her. CLA, Lauren's best friend, someone who had been a constant presence in our lives since we got married. She stared at me with her usual sharp eyes, her blonde hair falling over her shoulders as she sipped her drink. What are you doing here, CLA? I asked flatly, not in the mood for small talk. She shrugged. Same thing as you, I guess, looking for a quiet place. To think I didn't respond, the silence stretched between us until she finally spoke again. James, I know about tonight. I froze, my grip tightening around the glass. What do you mean? I mean, Lauren called me. She told me what happened at the party. I laughed bitterly. Did she tell you she was caught with Eric Jennings, or did she leave that part out? Claire's expression shifted, almost like she was expecting my anger. She told me everything about Eric, about you showing up, about how it's not what you think, not what I think. I snapped, turning to glare at her. I saw her with him. CLA. What do you call that? She sighed, said, letting her drink down. You're angry. You have every right to be. But there's something you don't know, something she hasn't told you. I stared at her, my frustration boiling over then. Maybe you should tell me, because right now I don't want to hear another excuse. Claire hesitated, like she was debating whether or not to say it. Finally, she leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. Lauren's been going through something for a while now. James, I thought you knew. She's not okay. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I frowned. What are you talking about? CLA looked at me, a mixture of pity and frustration in her eyes. Lauren's been seeing Eric because she needed help. He's not just your coworker, James. He's her therapist. I blinked, trying to process what I just heard. Her, what you heard me. CLA said quietly. Lauren didn't know how to tell you she was struggling. She felt like she was losing herself and she didn't want to burden you with it. Eric stepped in because she needed someone to talk to. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Eric, a therapist. It didn't make sense. The man I saw tonight wasn't some professional helping my wife. He was holding her close, whispering things to her that I couldn't unhear. Why didn't she tell me? I asked Helly more to myself than to Claire because she thought you wouldn't understand. Claire replied, she thought you'd blame her or brush it off like it was nothing. I ran a hand through my hair, my thoughts spiraling. Everything I thought I knew about tonight was suddenly turned upside down. Could there actually be another side to this? Had I been so blind to what Lauren was going through that she felt she had no choice but to keep secrets from me? Still, something didn't add up then. Why was she with him tonight alone, at that party? Claire hesitated again, her gaze faltering. I don't know, James, but you need to talk to her. You need to hear it from her. I stared at the bar, my mind racing. Claire's words had thrown me off balance. I wanted to believe Lauren wasn't capable of what I thought she'd done. I wanted to believe I'd misread everything, but that image of her in Eric's arms wouldn't leave my head. Finally, I stood up, tossing a few bills on the counter. Clay watched me carefully. Where are you going to find out the truth? I said quietly, my voice steady. Claire nodded, a faint smile playing on her lips. Good. You owe it to yourself and to her. As I stepped back into the cold night air, I pulled out my phone. This time I didn't ignore Lauren's messages. I found her number and hit call. It rang twice before. She picked up, her voice shaking. James, where are you? I asked, my tone calm but firm. At home, she whispered. Please come back. We need to talk. I'm on my way, I said. I hung up, my heart pounding, as I walked toward my car. The truth was waiting for me, whether I was ready for it or not. I pulled up to the house, the driveway eerily silent. The lights were on and I could see Lauren's silhouette in the living room window. My hands gripped the steering wheel. As I sat there, my thoughts warring with each other, Claire's words echoed in my head. Sheck, not okay. Eric's her therapist. It didn't fit with what I'd seen, but I needed answers. I stepped inside to find Lauren pacing the living room. She froze when she saw me, her face pale, her eyes red and swollen. James, she whispered, her voice trembling. Sit down, I said flatly, motioning toward the couch. She obeyed without a word, her hands nervously twisting together in her lap for a moment. The room was silent, except for the faint tick of the clock. I finally broke it, start talking. What the hell was Eric doing with you tonight? Lauren flinched as though my words physically struck her. It's not what you think. Please, you have to believe me. I folded my arms. Then make me believe you. Her gaze dropped to the floor. I started seeing Eric as my therapist months ago. I didn't know how to tell you, James. You were so distant, I felt like I couldn't reach you anymore. I clenched my jaw, fighting the surge of anger and guilt rising inside me. So, why the party? Why were you in his arms? Lauren's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. I wasn't in his arms the way you think. He invited me tonight to celebrate his engagement. I wasn't supposed to be there long, but I panicked when I saw you. I didn't want you to find out like that. Engagement? My voice cracked, disbelief flooding through me. Lauren nodded, wiping her tears. Yoon's engaged to someone else. James, there's nothing going on between us. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer. I sat down slowly, my anger unraveling into confusion. Why didn't you just tell me? Because I was afraid, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Afraid you'd think I was weak or that you wouldn't care. I stared at her, the weight of everything sinking in. Had I really let her feel that alone? Lauren looked up at me, her eyes pleading. I didn't cheat, James, I swear to you. But I needed help, and I needed you. The truth sat heavy between us, and for the first time in months I didn't know what to say. Lauren's words hung in the air like smoke. I couldn't clear it. My mind raced through everything I'd seen and heard, the lingering hug, her behavior, the way everyone froze at the party. It didn't add up. Eric's engaged, I asked, narrowing my eyes. Then why didn't you introduce me to him as your therapist? Why all the secrecy? She hesitated. Because I was ashamed, James. I didn't want you to know. I was struggling. Seeing a therapist, it felt like admitting defeat. My frustration boiled over, so you decided hiding it and sneaking around was better. You knew what it would look like. Lauren, do you have any idea how insane this feels to me right now? Now, Lauren opened her mouth to respond, but the sound of my phone buzzing on the coffee table interrupted her. I glanced down. CLA. Lauren froze when she saw the name flash on the screen. Why is CLA calling you? I didn't answer. Instead, I picked up the phone and stepped outside. Claire, what's going on? Her voice was quiet, almost hesitant. James, I need to tell you something. Something I didn't say earlier. I felt my heart drop. What is it? Claire sighed on the other end. Eric's engagement is true, but I've seen the way he looks at Lauren. He's too close to her for a professional relationship. I don't know what's really going on, but something doesn't sit right. I thought you should know. I stood on the porch, my hands trembling. CLA wasn't one to meddle or stir up drama, but her tone was serious, honest. I'll call you back, I muttered, and hung up, stepping back inside. I found Lauren sitting exactly where I'd left her. Her tear-streaked face looked up at me, but my resolve hardened. CLA says, Eric's too close to you, that there's something off. I said, my voice low but cutting. Lauren's expression faltered for just a moment, too quick for most to notice, but I noticed that's not true. She whispered. I told you you're lying, Lauren, I snapped, taking a step closer. You might have spun a good story about therapy, but something else is going on, and I'm going to find out what it is. Her face drained of color. James, please. But I wasn't listening anymore. My trust, already hanging by a thread, snapped. I grabbed my keys and turned toward the door. Where are you going? Lauren's voice trembled, panic lacing every word to get the truth, and with that I walked out, leaving her behind. I drove aimlessly for a while, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. My mind replayed Lauren's words. Claws, warning, and that flicker of doubt I'd seen on Lauren's face when I confronted her. Something didn't add up, and I wasn't going to sit back and let her lies swallow me whole. My car stopped before I even realized where I was heading. Eric's office building, a sleek, modern complex that matched the image I had of him, polished, charming, and, in suff, ably smug. I stepped inside the lobby, my anger keeping me focused at the reception desk. I used a confident tone. I didn't quite feel I'm here to see Eric, he's expecting me. The receptionist didn't question it. People always believed someone who acted like they belonged. Minutes later, I stood outside his office door, my fists clenched at my sides. I knocked sharply. "Come in," a voice called out. Eric looked up from his desk, surprised, flashing in his eyes when he saw me. "James, what are you doing here?" I didn't waste time. "We need to talk about Lauren." He leaned back in his chair, a smug smile curling at his lips. "Lauren told you about me, huh? That you're her therapist." "Yeah, she told me." I stepped closer, my voice like ice. "But I don't believe a damn word of it. What's really going on between you two?" Eric's smile faltered and he looked away, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. For a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed, leaning forward with his elbows on the desk. "Fine. You want the truth?" he said quietly. "Lauren and I aren't just professional. It started months ago. She came to me after you two had a fight, said she needed someone to talk to. Things escalated from there." The air was sucked from my lungs. "Escalated?" I choked out, though I already knew the answer. He didn't even flinch. "Yes, we've been seeing each other for a moment." The room spun. My worst suspicions were confirmed, and hearing him say it so plainly knocked the wind out of me. I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my voice steady. "You're engaged, aren't you? To someone else?" He shrugged like it didn't matter. "My fiancé doesn't need to know about Lauren. These things happen, James. You're a smart guy. You should have seen this coming. Women like Lauren get bored." His words hit me harder than any punch. "Women like Lauren," I repeated. Stunned by his arrogance, Eric smiled, that smug smile again, and I finally snapped. I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him out of his chair, papers scattered everywhere as his chair slammed into the wall. "You think this is a joke? That ruining people's lives is a game to you?" I shouted. Eric's cocky demeanor. Van finished. "James, calm down." "I'm done being calm," I growled. "You'll never see her again. And when I'm finished, your precious little reputation will be in the gutter." I let him go, shoving him backward into his desk. I turned on my heel and stormed out of the office, leaving him pale-faced and scrambling for words. I didn't know how long I'd been driving. When I finally pulled up outside the house, my hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, my anger now replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. I didn't even want to go inside, but I knew I had to face Lauren. When I opened the front door, I found her sitting on the couch, her face pale and tear-streaked. She stood up as soon as she saw me. "James, I talked to Eric." I interrupted, my voice flat. She froze, her eyes widening. "You? You went to see him?" "Yeah," I said coldly, and he told me. Everything. Lauren's lips parted as if she was going to deny it, but then she slumped back onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I'm sorry, James," she whispered through her tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "You didn't mean for it to happen," I repeated, my voice shaking. "You lied to me. You betrayed me. And for what? A sleabag who's already cheating on his fiancée." Lauren looked up at me, her eyes filled with guilt. "It wasn't about him. It was about me. I felt like I was losing myself, like I didn't know who I was anymore. And I was afraid. Afraid to talk to you about it. Afraid you wouldn't understand." I stared at her, my heart breaking all over again. "So, instead of talking to me, you turned to him." She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. The silence was enough. I took a deep breath, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I don't think I can forgive this, Lauren. I said, Finn, finally. I loved you. I trusted you. And you threw it all away. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, Please don't leave me, James. I'll do anything to fix this. I shook my head, feeling a lump rise in my throat. Some things can't be fixed. And with that, I turned and walked out, leaving behind the life I thought I knew.